It's time for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the award-winning show that covers fishing, hunting, and all sorts of outdoor recreation here in the Great Northwest. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, a legacy of innovation since 1969, by Loophole Optics, America's optical authority, by Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors, by Wallowa County, nature is on display in Northeast Oregon, and by The Real News, your fishing resource. Also by Shiloh Inns and Suites, providing you with affordable excellence, and by Mardon Resort, the place for fishing, hunting, and more in Eastern Washington. And now, it's time to head outside with your host, John Cruz.
This week on the show, we're taking you to Lake Como. No, not the one in Italy. The one that's just as beautiful in Montana's Bitterroot Valley. Todd McKay and Erica Strayer with the Bitterroot National Forest are going to tell you all about the outdoor fun you can have here. Camping, boating, hiking, fishing, riding, and more. Todd will be coming back later in the show to tell you about another Bitterroot Valley place to play outside, the Bass Creek Recreation Area. There's no lake here, and I'm pretty sure the fish here are trout instead of bass, but there are a whole bunch of things to do outside here as well. Further north in the Bitterroot is Travelers Rest State Park. There is a whole bunch of history to be discovered at this new state park that sits on a very old gathering place used by Native Americans, and also on two occasions going west and going east by the Lewis and Clark expedition. Be sure to bring your binoculars with you and hike the half-mile interpretive trail because there are a whole bunch of birds and other wildlife to be seen here, and Park Manager Lauren Flynn will be telling you all about it. We can't talk about the Bitterroot Valley without talking about the great trout fishing available in the Bitterroot River. Chuck Stranahan, owner of Stranahan's Flies and Guides in Hamilton, will give you some great advice that will help you catch and release some of the hefty cutthroat trout you'll find here. Speaking of fishing, sockeye salmon fishing continues to be hot as the summer weather in Washington State, and Lance Mers will give you the information you need to tie into some fish at northwestern Washington's Baker Lake, where the bite really turned on a couple of weeks ago. Throw in our usual assortment of outdoor news, field reports, and upcoming events from all over the Northwest, and I think not only are you going to love this show, but you'll be packing up to head to the Bitterroot Valley yourself by the end of this broadcast. But first, David Sparks has another edition of Sportsman Spotlight for you, brought to you every week by Shiloh Inn and Suites, the hotel chain that lives up to the motto of affordable excellence. This week, David's got some tips on picking out the right bow and accessories you're going to need for hunting season.
Choosing the right bow, David Sparks, Sportsman Spotlight. What with elk and deer season not too far in the distant future, certainly in Idaho, I called Sportsman's Warehouse sales associate Tom Hahn and asked him for some direction on choosing a bow.
I like the single cam bows. They're easier to tune. They're more forgiving to the shooter. You can get anywhere from a 3-pin sight to a 5-pin sight for more distance. I like fall-away rest versus a trap-style rest. That way there you have no influence on your arrow when you shoot. So when you shoot, it falls away, so there's no contact with the arrow anymore. A decent bow case, if you're going up for a weekend, a soft case works great. But if you're going up for, like I go up for 10, 14 days, I'll take a hard case because I'm going to pack a lot of more supplies around it. And then, get you set up with a good set of arrows, half dozen arrows, a release. Probably the cheapest thing you'll ever get is string wax, and it'll last you forever. It's a maintenance that you need to do on your string to keep your string conditioned. That's a tough one to get anyone to do, but it definitely prolongs the life of the string on the bow. And then I would set you up with broadheads, typically a 3-blade broadhead, and I'd take you around the corner. We have a little shooting lane, and then I would show you proper technique, what to look for in your anchor points, muscle tension in your hand, and then help sight in your bow on your windage on your left and right.
This is David Sparks for Sportsman Spotlight.
Confused by so many national brand hotel reward programs? Blackout dates, expiration dates, different points for different hotel rewards, and gimmicks? At Shiloh Inn Suites Hotels, it's simple. No blackout dates for any rewards stay. If we have a room available, it's yours. Hi, I'm Mark Hemstreet, owner of Shiloh Inns. As a rewards member, you'll receive free room upgrades, a dedicated personal agent to help book your stay, points that don't expire, points that can be used for free nights at any one of our beautiful hotels or donations to your local school or free airline tickets, and much more. And as a special bonus, you'll earn 100 free bonus points just for signing up. From your very first stay, you receive free Wi-Fi, free breakfast at most locations. The kids stay free. We don't charge ridiculous resort or parking fees, and we're dog-friendly. Shiloh Inn's affordable excellence. American-owned and proud of it.
I'd like to tell you I just brought down that buck, but I didn't. I missed. And you know why I missed? Because of the scope I've got on my rifle. You see, my friends told me to get a Leupold rifle scope. Why? Well, because Leupold is America's optical authority. They make a huge variety of quality scopes for every need, and they make them right here in the Northwest. Unfortunately, I didn't listen. I used the cheap scope that came with this rifle when I bought it. And when it came time to pull the trigger, well, let's just say things were a little blurry. Now, I've got nothing to look forward to except a long, empty-handed walk back home. Next time I come out into the field, there's going to be a Leupold scope on my rifle. And next time, I'm not going to miss.
Leupold rifle scopes. Check out the whole line at leupold.com and look for them at a sporting goods store near you.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We're broadcasting from a little slice of heaven in southwest Montana today. We're at Lake Como. It's near Darby, Montana, in the southern part of the Bitterroot Valley. It's just a drop-dead gorgeous place that you're going to want to visit, whether you want to swim, boat, fish, hike, camp, ride a horse, or in the winter, cross-country ski, or maybe in the summer, go bicycling. You can do it all here. And with us to tell us more is Todd McKay, who is the Public Affairs Officer with the Bitterroot National Forest, and Erica Strayer, who's a Recreation Manager with the U.S. Forest Service. Todd, Erica, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Thank you.
Todd, we're going to start with you. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about Lake Como and exactly where you're located, and a little bit about the lake and why people come here?
You bet. So this is the Lake Como Rec Area. It's on the Bitterroot National Forest. It's on our Darby Ranger District. It sits between the towns of Hamilton and Darby. It's the most utilized recreation area in the North region of the Forest Service. Gets about 200,000 plus visitors a year. It's very busy in the summertime, especially on weekends. This weekend there'll be lots of folks boating and camping. Our campsites will likely fill up on Fridays. Lots of people come and, as you mentioned, do all sorts of things here. It's a very popular rec area.
You know, Todd, one thing that struck me as I was exploring the Lake Como recreation area here was how modern this is. Don't take this the wrong way, but I'm used to a lot of Forest Service campgrounds and sites being, well, rustic and in need of maintenance, but I'm not seeing that here at all. Everything looks really modern and upgraded or new.
It's really because our rec staff and our forest has done a lot of work here at this site the last few years. We have expanded campgrounds. We have built a brand new, beautiful group site area that people can come and reserve and have events. We've restored a historic cabin called Woods Cabin that sits right on the shores of Lake Como. There's been a lot of investment and a lot of staff time, and our rec staff does a great job keeping it up. And so it is beautiful. It really is a gem of not only our forest, but the northern region of the Forest Service.
If you come here, you're going to need a pass, and it's pretty specific to Lake Como unless you have an America the Beautiful pass. Otherwise, you're going to need one of these specific passes for Lake Como. They cost $30 for the year and $5 for a day. You can purchase them right here at the recreation site. So, Erica, let's go ahead and talk about some of the things people do here that are just visiting for the day.
Okay, well, Lake Como is approximately 980 acres and about 3.5 miles long and has approximately 8 miles of shoreline. So it has a variety of fishing, hiking opportunities, boating, swimming. We do have a designated beach area where we bring in nice sand for the beach, and we have a designated swim area, and that gets used a lot by families with small children. We also have a boat ramp with a nice wide boat dock, and so that accommodates a wide variety of sizes of boats and motorized equipment and non-motorized also.
One of the spectacular things about this lake, folks, it's not just a 3.5-mile long lake. It's a 3.5-mile lake that's surrounded by ponderosa pine, and you've got these jagged peaks that are looking over it with snow on the top, and it's just a gorgeous setting. So you've got trout fishing, so this is a fun thing to do here. But you know, when I was coming up here, I actually saw some people coming back with kayaks. This looks like a great place to explore with a canoe or a kayak. I couldn't imagine a better place, at least when the wind's down.
That is correct. When the wind is down, it is beautiful. When the wind is up, then people try to get off the lake pretty quickly.
Do you have a lot of recreational boaters here, too, in terms of the power boating set and maybe even the water skiing crew?
We do. We get a lot of motorized boating activity and jet skis, motorboats, water skiers, inner tubers.
So I'll give you the same advice that I always do, folks. If you're into the motorized boating, you can come during the day and have a lot of fun. But if you're in the more contemplative stuff, if you're out there to fish, if you're out there to paddle, go in the morning, go in the evening. You're probably going to have the lake pretty much to yourself and have that solitude that so many of you like to seek when you're doing these sort of activities. Let's go ahead and turn our attention to the camping. You've got a number of different campsites here, and I guess we'll start with just your regular campsites. I love that one around the little pond. What is it, the Three Frogs Campground?
That is correct. That is our Three Frogs Campground. It is a newly renovated campground. It accommodates the smaller recreational vehicles and tent campers. We do have 4 sites that are designated for tent camping only, and those sites get used quite a bit. There are 20 campsites within Three Frogs Campground, and as I said earlier, it's a newly renovated site, so it has all brand new picnic tables, fire rings, tent pads, new outhouses.
It's got it all. Like I said, folks, this is modern stuff. You also have a small RV campground, too, I noticed. It's just perfect if you're pulling a trailer. And you've got a group site and a horse site, too. Tell me a little bit more about those.
So the Lower Como Campground is our RV campsite or campground. It has 11 campsites, and each campsite is equipped with water and electrical hookups. And this campground is very popular and is usually full every day in the summertime. It is popular for the larger RVers. We also have the Rock Creek Horse Camp, which is geared more towards folks with stock. We have hitching rails, feed troughs, and larger sites to accommodate the larger horse trailers.
Now, Erica, you know, the group site, suffice it to say, it's nice, it's big, it's close to the lake, and you're going to like it. But getting a little more detail on the horse site, for those that bring horses up here, are there places to ride?
There are places to ride. There is a trail on the south side of the lake that goes back into the Selway Bitterroot Wilderness, so that makes a really nice ride. There are also quite a few user-created trails, meaning the horseback riders just ride on old roads that are closed to motorized use, and that's pretty popular with the horseback group.
You know, one other trail we need to talk about, popular with the hikers, and it looks like with the mountain bikers too, is this trail that actually goes all the way around the lake. You actually access it from right by the Three Frogs Campground. Tell me more about that.
So the trail that goes all the way around the lake is about 7.7 miles long, and the north side of the trail has a paved interpretive trail for about a half mile long. And mountain bikers and hikers are welcome on the north side of the lake. However, we don't allow stock on the north side of the lake due to the paved trail. But the trail around the lake makes for a beautiful day hike, and it takes you back to the inlet of the lake where there are some nice cascades. So it's a beautiful hike.
One other thing that Todd mentioned earlier, you've got this beautiful cabin here. Is that for rent? And tell me more about that.
It is. Woods Cabin is on our national reservation system and can be rented 6 months in advance. And we are now allowing Woods Cabin to be rented out in the wintertime. This will be the 3rd winter that it's been rented, and it is a really popular place in the wintertime as well. We have cross-country ski trails on the south side of the lake. We also have ice fishing on the lake and some snowmobile places. And so Woods Cabin is becoming pretty popular as a wintertime rental also.
We are starting to run out of time, but folks, if you haven't figured it out yet, Lake Como is a must-see, must-visit, must-camp-at destination. It's just absolutely gorgeous. If you're looking for basically an alpine lake setting that's really easy to get to. You're going to be hard-pressed to do better than this. Todd, I know you cover a lot of Forest Service land, the Bitterroot National Forest. Why don't you go ahead and tease our listeners with maybe one or two other places they might want to visit? Then we'll get you back on the show to talk more about them later.
You bet. Love to. You know, the Bitterroot Forest is unique. It's 1.6 million acres. There is another recreation area called Bass Creek that's just north of here, really popular again for hiking and horseback riding and so forth. The other thing that's really unique about our forest is we're home to 3 different designated wilderness areas. So half of the Bitterroot, 800,000 acres, is in designated wilderness. So in the lower 48, no other place that you can go to kind of escape the busyness of life, to get back to the way things used to be. We have the Selway Bitterroot, the Frank Church, and the Anaconda Pentler wilderness areas, really popular this time of year for folks coming really from around the country to backpack and to get into really some solitude in wilderness areas. So that's another thing that we offer here on the Bitterroot.
So there you go, folks. Just some more reasons to head over here to the Bitterroot Valley in southwest Montana. If you want to find out more, I'm not going to give you the long drawn-out website. Just go ahead and Google Bitterroot National Forest or Lake Como Recreation Area. You're going to get where you need to go ahead and find out more about these great places. Check them out. Make plans to come and visit. You're going to love it. Todd, Erica, thanks for telling us all about this on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Looking for the ultimate salmon and halibut fishing experience at a great price? Then make plans to enjoy the real news for the Wild Northern Fish-In. Taking place August 23rd through the 26th. You'll be fishing the protected waters around British Columbia's Queen Charlotte Islands during the day and enjoying first-class food and accommodations at night. If you want an incredible saltwater fishing experience you'll never forget, the Wild Northern Fish-In is for you. Find out more at therealnews.com. That's the real, REEL news.com for the Wild Northern Fish-In.
We're back with John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on!
Brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us again is Lance Mers. Lance, we've talked a lot about sockeye fishing at places like Lake Wenatchee and Lake Osoyoos, but we haven't talked about Baker Lake in northwest Washington, where we've been getting reports that the fishing's been pretty hot lately. What do you suggest that people use to get some sockeye in the boat out there at this beautiful lake in the forests of northwest Washington?
I'm going to recommend 2 for you, John. First one is a attractor by Max Lure. It's called a Double D Dodger. And the cool thing about this Dodger is it's an added attractor in the water. It has 5 different holes in the front of the Dodger, which basically allows you to push this away from the boat and out of the boat's path. So it not only serves as a Dodger, but it also serves as a side planer as well.
So if you've got 3 people in the boat, for example, you can go ahead and tie it up in the center point, and it's going to go straight back. You can go ahead and tie one up on the far side one way, and it's going to go away from the boat to the right, and tie it up on the opposite side on the other side of the boat. It's going to go away from the boat on the left, and you're not going to have to worry about tangled line.
Absolutely. And that's what we're all looking for. We want to have our lines in the water as much as we possibly can. So with this Dodger, on the back of it, there's a diagram. Based upon where you're sitting in the boat, that's going to allow you to put that into the corresponding hole. It pushes it away from everything and no tangles.
All right, so what do we put behind this Dodger to get some of those Baker Lake sockeye?
Well, for the Baker Lake sockeye run, Max Lure has a great lure called the Cha-Cha sockeye rig. And the sockeye rig comes with a 1.5-inch smile blade, 2-inch, basically hoochie skirt, as everybody likes to call them, 2 1/0 hooks, tip that with some coon shrimp, and you're good to go.
So it's the Max Cha-Cha sockeye rig paired with a Max Double D Dodger, and that concludes another Max Minute, brought to you every week by Max Lure Company.
Looking for the ultimate cooking machine for your backyard or patio? Look no further than Camp Chef's new pellet grill and smoker. With user-friendly features like an auto ignition, digital readouts, and internal meat temperature sensors, it's easy to smoke the tastiest salmon, ribs, brisket, and turkey you'll ever eat. And an innovative system makes cleanup a snap. Everyone will want the food you're cooking on your Camp Chef pellet grill and smoker. The quality smoker that's second to none. Find out more at campchef.com. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors.
Hot summer nights mean hot morning fishing for sockeye here in the Northwest, and Max Lure Company has got what you need to catch a limit with the Double D Dodger and two great sockeye rigs. The Double D Dodger has a unique fast, slow action and can be fished away from the boat without a side planer. The Cha-Cha Sockeye Rig and Double Whammy Sockeye Pro both feature a patented smile blade and two stout red hooks that won't let go of that salmon when it bites. Max Lure Company, getting you into the sockeye this summer.
Good hunters know before you take that shot, you've got to see the whole picture. Now, the best way to do that is with a spotting scope, binoculars, or a rifle scope, but it's got to be from Leupold. Now, Leupold is a Northwest company with a reputation that stretches across the world for making superior optics. Look for Leupold Optics at your local Cabela store, Dick's Sporting Goods, or online at leupold.com. Leupold, America's optical authority.
Next on Northwestern Outdoors Radio, we're back in the Bitterroot Valley in southwest Montana, and this time we are broadcasting from Travelers Rest State Park near the little town of Lolo. With us here to tell us about this place that has a lot of historical significance and is a great place to go wildlife watching is Park Manager Lauren Flynn. Lauren, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. It's great to be with you.
Lauren, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about Travelers Rest State Park, which is a pretty new property for Montana State Parks?
Correct. The park has been established in 2001, and it's a really unique spot. It's the only, to date, archaeologically confirmed Lewis and Clark campsite in the nation, and it sits at the crossroad of a major travel route that goes back for thousands of years.
Now, I understand prior to 1996, historians thought that Travelers Rest, an important part of the Lewis and Clark expedition, and we'll talk about that more in a minute, was actually located at the confluence of the Bitterroot River and Lolo Creek. But in 1996, they discovered it was actually here a few miles away. How did they figure that out?
It was a really interesting process, kind of like a little mystery story here. A little CSI work went into this. There were little tiny pieces of evidence taken from the journals, taken from the celestial observations that Lewis made, that led them to believe that the site had been misidentified to begin with. And that led to some further investigation, research, and eventually an archaeological investigation that proved the campsite was here basically because of the military manual that Lewis and Clark were following and the campsite layout. They were able to identify some features of the campsite that fit that pattern of encampment that was prescribed by the military manual.
One of those things, folks, being, of all things, a latrine. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about the prehistory of Travelers Rest, because long before Lewis and Clark got here in 1805, this area was used by the Salish Indians and other Indian tribes as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Travelers Rest, or in the Salish language, it's called Tumsum Kli, which means no salmon, sits really at a junction of major travel routes going in all four directions. It was the main kind of meeting place, as I understand it, between the Plateau tribes and the Columbia River tribes. And so the Salish homeland is here in the Bitterroot Valley. And so this place kind of became that cultural and commercial center where people would bring salmon from the west and perhaps even buffalo from the east, bring it here for trading. And the Salish people tell us it was a really important, especially spring and winter camping area where they'd kind of gather together before they kind of disperse out across the landscape in the summer months, gathering the resources they needed to make it through these long Montana winters.
Now, the Lewis and Clark expedition came here in the late summer of 1805 before beginning what became, quite frankly, a horrific journey over Lolo Pass down towards present-day Lewiston. And they came back here in 1806 before splitting up into two columns or two teams to go ahead and explore present-day Montana. Why here? Why was this the place that they stopped on both occasions?
You know, it's interesting. We think about them splitting into two groups. At one point, they actually were split up into 5 groups across Montana before coming back together into 2 kind of major groups again. Lewis and Clark saw this place, some historians believe, as the focal point of Western geography. They had determined during their time, both traveling through here in late 1805 and during that winter of 1805 and 06, the most direct route across the continent, which was their mission, kind of passed right through here. When they came back here in 1806, they'd already already put this plan in place to go out and explore all of what is now Montana. And they did that for a couple of reasons. First of all, to collect some caches of supplies and specimens that they left in a couple of different locations. Also, to kind of ground truth this shortcut, as they called it, to the Great Falls. It took them over 50 days to get from Great Falls to here in 1805, and when they got here, they heard from the local folks that they could reach the Great Falls in about 4 days if they followed the present-day Blackfoot River.
Fascinating story. Today, you can go ahead and visit the Visitor Center here, folks, and learn a whole bunch more about the Lewis and Clark expedition and the native peoples that came here for generations and generations to go ahead and gather and fish and hunt and trade. But you can also walk an interpretive loop. It's a half-mile loop, easy, flat walk that goes ahead and takes you again through the history of the place, but bring your binoculars because there's a lot of bird life and wildlife to be seen. In fact, when I walked in, I got to see several yellow-rumped warblers, which are really classy-looking birds you don't get to see in too many places. Had a murder of crows that was cawing at me the whole trip, and got to see a few other birds as well of a more common variety. But this is a great place for bird watching and wildlife watching, isn't it, Lauren?
It really is, John. You know, we have rich riparian habitat here, and as you know, that's really critical for a lot of bird life. But we also have some upland areas and grassland areas as well. We've identified more than 130 species of birds within the park boundary, everything from lazuli buntings to some raptors. We get American dippers, which are some of my favorite birds anyway, especially in the winter months. And then we have a real diversity of fur bearers. We've seen mink and muskrat and river otter. We've had elk on site in the winter months. So real diversity of wildlife watching available here. And we're expanding our trail system here in the next few months. So we're going to have a lot of additional opportunities for wildlife watching and recreation here in Lolo.
Again, folks, that's a whole lot of wildlife watching packed into a very small property and package here. This is a day use area, but this trail is going to take you along Lolo Creek and through a stand of black cottonwood. And again, it's a great trail to A, learn about things, but B, see a lot of wildlife as well. Find out more about visiting Travelers Rest State Park at travelersrest.org. That's travelersrest.org. It's a half-mile west of Lolo off of US Highway 12. Easy to find, well worth a stop to stretch your legs and learn a little bit too. Lauren, thanks for telling us all about this on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thanks, John, and come see us at the park.
All right, folks. Earlier in the show, we told you we were going to get Todd McKay on during another show to talk about more outdoor recreation in the Bitterroot National Forest. Well, we couldn't wait. We got him on a lot sooner than that. Todd, I was really intrigued about Bass Creek. Tell our listeners more about this and why folks who own a horse are really going to be interested in this place.
Yeah, other than Como, it's one of the most popular areas on the forest for horseback riding. We have a really nice parking area there, a trailer area that folks can come and unload their horses. The Larry Creek riding area has over 10 miles of trails. We just did quite a thinning project on that area a year ago, and so we've cleared out some of the trees, and it's really park-like in some areas. It's really beautiful, and it's one of the most popular areas on our forest and really in the valley for horseback riding. People come down from Missoula, they come from Frenchtown and different areas because you're right there and just a few minutes from town, and you're really in a secluded environment, and it's a great place to go horseback riding.
Now, this is just north of Hamilton, isn't it?
It is, yeah. The closest town would be Stevensville. It's on our Stevensville Ranger District, and the Bass Creek Recreation Area is the second national recreation area on the forest, the other being Lake Como.
So let's talk about camping. You know, some people are obviously going to be up there for day riding, but for those who want to go ahead and camp, are there horse facilities? Is it a horse camp, basically, and is it just one camp, or are there several?
It's not a horse camp like we have here at Como, but there's a beautiful camp facility there. It's called Charles Waters Campground. It has, I want to say, 30-plus campsites. Again, beautiful, well-maintained. We did some work up there just a few years ago, again, to renovate some of the sites, new picnic tables, new fire rings for folks. And so it's similar in look to what you've seen at Lake Como. But, yeah, so if you're going to come and horseback ride and you want to stay, Charles Waters Campground would be the place to do it.
Are there other activities as well? I'm guessing if you can ride a horse, you can go ahead and lace up those hiking boots and hike, too.
Yeah, both hiking and mountain biking are really popular. Not only down at at the Larry Creek trails where a lot of the horseback and mountain biking goes on, but you can hike up Bass Creek Trail, hike up, all the way into the wilderness for, 10 plus miles and hike up to a mountain lake there. So, there's 1,500 miles of hiking trails on the Bitterroot National Forest.
So you've got my attention there with the fact you can hike to a lake. Now, this is called Bass Lake, so I'm a little, I'm suspiciously fishy, you might say here. Are there bass in there, or are there trout?
Yeah, you're mostly going to find trout and probably native cutthroat trout, which is what kind of the Bitterroot is famous for. We've got a lot of blue ribbon trout streams here, but there are so many high mountain lakes. In fact, there's one called Fish Lake on the Bitterroot, so you really can't go wrong. And most of the canyons on the west side in the Bitterroot Mountains that you can hike up to have lakes. I think Bass Lake is somewhere around the 10-mile mark, so you've got to earn it to get up there and cast a fly or whatever you're fishing with. But there are just many, many beautiful mountain lakes that you can hike to.
Go ahead and just Google the Bitterroot National Forest onto your internet search engine. You're going to find all sorts of information about not just Bass Creek Recreation Area, but also Lake Como Recreation Area and a whole bunch of other places to explore here in southwest Montana. Todd, thanks again. We sure appreciate it.
Absolutely, John. Thanks for being here.
Wetlands are some of the most important ecosystems on Earth, but our wetlands are quickly disappearing. Find out how you can help. Join Ducks Unlimited today.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. It's time again for news and reports from the field, brought to you every week by Mardon Resort at Eastern Washington's Potholes Reservoir. The annual Lake Games and Beach Party is coming up soon at Mardon, and if you own a boat and like to have fun, you are going to want to get in on this event taking place on August 23rd. What you'll do is boat from island to island, participate in fun games, and draw a card after each event, angling for the best poker hand you can get. At the end of the day, prizes will be awarded, and the beach party that goes with it is so much fun. They've been doing it again and again for 7 years now. Find out more and register now at mardonresort.com. We start off with a story about excessive selfies stressing an Idaho elk, courtesy of the Outdoor Press Room and Idaho Fish and Game. Conservation officers with Idaho Fish and Game tranquilized and relocated a spike bull elk that ran through residential neighborhoods of Garden City recently after multiple people attempted to get close enough to the animal to take selfies with their smartphone. Fish and Game Officer Bill London said, "When people get this close to a wild animal, the stress only creates potential harm to the animal and to the public." Wow. Come on, people. Let's have a little respect for the wildlife out there. In better news from Idaho Fish and Game, a record number of sockeye salmon have been counted passing over Lower Granite Dam on the Snake River. 2,500 of these fish were counted as of July 28th, the most seen since the dam was built in 1975. This is a huge improvement from what biologists saw in 1990 when not a single sockeye was counted passing the dam. That led the Snake River sockeye being listed as an endangered species. Idaho Fish and Game believes this year's record return is due in large part to a captive broodstock program begun in 1991 that's managed by Idaho Fish and Game and financed by the Bonneville Power Administration. The program has kept the fish genetics intact while numbers of returning sockeye have slowly increased. The program produces eggs and juvenile fish which are reintroduced to their habitat in the Sawtooth Mountains. The number of juvenile fish will increase even more with the addition of the Springfield Fish Hatchery near American Falls, Idaho, and by 2017, 1 million sockeye smolt will be released into the Snake River. From the Sage Grouse Initiative, we learn nature-loving landowners can do very good things for wildlife. That's the case in rural Douglas County, Washington, where landowner Ferdy Bussinger has secured $300,000 in grants to enhance 900 acres of habitat populated by sage grouse and other wildlife species. Bussinger worked with the Sage Grouse Initiative, Pheasants Forever, and the Foster Conservation District to come up with a plan that netted 2 grants meant to help out sage grouse, a species species that numbers less than 1,000 birds in Washington state. Most of these birds, which have suffered a major drop in numbers over the past few decades, are now found in northern Douglas County. Enhancing this habitat, described as an oasis of shrub steppe and wet meadows amongst a sea of dry wheatland, will also benefit Columbia sharp-tailed grouse that live in this area. You can learn more about this story and other efforts to restore sage grouse populations by going to sagegrouseInitiative.com. And in other bird news, we learned from the Medford Mail Tribune a bird snowbirds are familiar with in Arizona and Florida. The grackle has established a foothold in Jackson County, Oregon. Think of it as a black bird with a really big tail. They are as common as starlings or pigeons, hanging around places like Disney World in Florida or outside the casinos in Laughlin, Nevada, hoping for human handouts. And now, a half dozen of them have established residency in White City, Oregon. Do we need to worry about more of these birds migrating north? Perhaps not. Stuart Janes, a biology professor at Southern Oregon University, says these birds are not migratory, and they will likely find the winters of the Pacific Northwest to be a little chillier than they are used to. And now, it's time to head back to Montana's Bitterroot Valley and talk about some fishing. Next up, it's time for field reports, and we're broadcasting from Chuck Stranahan's fly shop in Hamilton, Montana. Chuck sells flies. He also offers guided fly fishing trips on the Bitterroot River in southwestern Montana. Chuck, tell us a little bit more about the Bitterroot. What kind of trout are people going to find here?
You can get a grand slam here, and it does happen every now and then. Our premier trout is the West Slope cutthroat. We have a population of those beautiful, big, robust fish here that will get after a fly aggressively and give you a good tussle when you hook them up that is unparalleled, I think. We have 80-odd miles of fishable stream in the main river, another 25 miles in both the east and west fork, all of it good West Slope cutthroat habitat, and they have rebounded in the years that we've had protective regulations. We also have good rainbow trout and occasional big brown trout in the river. Every now and then you'll catch a big bull trout. We had one take a little stonefly nymph earlier in the year. The fish measured 32 inches long, took almost an hour to land.
Oh my God.
And didn't pose very long for a picture and was carefully released by the guide. Happy, healthy, and I hope not too much wiser for the experience. But we do have the bull trout and a few brook trout in addition to the native cutthroats and wild rainbows and wild browns, which will make up most of your catch.
So when we're talking about the Bitterroot, we're basically talking about a river that's flowing pretty much south from Missoula along Highway 93. When it comes to late summer, early fall fishing, especially fly fishing, what do you recommend people do to go ahead and get some trout?
Number one, be prepared. This river will throw an abundance of hatches at you. I cannot say that this, that, or the other hatch is the premier hatch. We do have all of the major hatches that occur that time of year. Late summer in the lower river, you can find trico spinner falls that will blanket the river, and you'll find fairly large fish coming up for those little bitty flies. You'll also have, on the cloudy days, blueing olive mayflies. You'll also have, particularly in the middle and upper runs, mahogany duns that'll appear in the afternoon and then send spinners down in the evening. And you're going to be looking at some late season stoneflies, little bitty ones, 12s and 14s. And in addition to that, the big giant orange October caddis. And in addition to that, hoppers, beetles, and flying ants, any of which can take over the day. So my best advice, if you're going to fish here in the fall, is don't think I'm lying to you and trying to sell you a bunch of flies when I tell you what's going on. Be prepared when you go out there and you'll have some fun.
One other thing we better talk about, we cover 4 states here. When it comes to river access in Montana, it's a little different from other states. Now, there's certain access points right off of Highway 93. You just can't tri-apse through private property here. You have to go ahead and abide by those access points, don't you?
We must respect private property, and we must stay within the high water line, which late in the year is easy to do. You have exposed shoreline on one side of the river, if not both, for its entire length. The access points will allow you to get in at a place every 7 or 8 to at the most 10 to 14 miles. And if you're able to walk, say, 200 yards upstream or down, you'll have a riffle and run all to yourself. So access for the wading angler here is really quite good. This is a broad, shallow floodplain river for most of its length. When you get up into the canyon stretches, up in the forks, you're looking at pocket water and delightful wading water, where you will catch fish that instead of running the 9 to 11 inches you would expect will run from 10 to 16, 18, or if you're my wife, a 27-inch cutthroat up on the upper end of the West Fork.
Chuck, we're running out of time, but if you haven't figured it out, the Bitterroot River is a river you're going to want to fish. And if you want to go ahead and do it as a guided trip, you can go ahead and give Chuck Stranahan a call. His phone number, 406-363-4197. That's 406-363-4197. He's also got a website. It's Chuck-Stranahan, spelled Stranahan. That's chuck-stranahan.com or 406-363-4197. He's right off of Highway 93 at Marcus Street in downtown Hamilton next to the Chamber of Commerce. Drop on by, buy some flies, go ahead and book a trip and get some advice on where you can catch trout on the Bitterroot. Chuck, thanks for telling us all about this on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Been a pleasure. See you on the stream.
The road is calling you to experience one of Oregon's 7 wonders, the Wallowas. So grab your family and spend some time exploring Northeast Oregon's Wallowa County. Visit the state park at the head of glacier-carved Wallowa Lake. Travel the Hells Canyon Scenic Byway. Feel the pioneer spirit, Nez Perce history, and see our Western arts and bronzes. Ascend to the top of Mount Howard on the tram and you'll see why Wallowa County is one of Oregon's most scenic and adventurous vacation wonders. This summer, take the road that leads to wonders. It begins at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
Many people think that Ducks Unlimited is a hunting club or a clothing manufacturer. It's not. Ducks Unlimited is the leading waterfowl and wetlands conservation organization in the world. Here in Idaho, we've lost nearly 76% of our wetlands. Ducks Unlimited is working to stop that loss. In Idaho alone, DU has restored and conserved over 27,000 acres of wetlands. Learn more about the benefits of wetlands and what Ducks Unlimited is doing for Idaho's future. Visit ducks.org/Idaho.
Psst, yeah, you, the guide, outfitter, or outdoors business owner who's listening to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. Have you ever thought of becoming a sponsor of our show? We've got local sponsor opportunities at all 50 of the stations that carry Northwestern Outdoors every week, and we've got some network opportunities too. If the outdoors is your business, we can help you with your advertising needs. Contact me, John Cruz, through our website at northwesternoutdoors.com for more information. That's northwesternoutdoors.com, helping you get the word out about your outdoors company.
We're back with one last cast from John Cruz on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Let's run through some upcoming events before we go. If you're looking for something fun to do this weekend, head to the 25th Annual Charleston Seafood Festival on the Central Oregon coast. You'll find lots of good seafood to eat, live music, lots of vendors, and even a trout pond full of fish for kids to catch, courtesy of the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. The trout pond is open and tackle provided from Saturday the 9th at 9 a.m. until Sunday the 10th at 5 p.m. In Montana, Fish, Wildlife, and Parks Becoming an Outdoor Woman program is sponsoring a kayaking class August 16th on the Clark Fork River near Thompson Falls. If you go, you'll learn the basics of kayaking and then launch for a 5-mile float down the Clark Fork. The $45 fee includes the use of a kayak, life jacket, and lunch at the conclusion of the float. You do need to register in advance if you want to do this. Simply go to the Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks website and click on Becoming an Outdoors Woman under the Education tab. Speaking of kayaking, Spokane Parks and Rec is offering a Saturday shuttle service for canoes, kayaks, and their human occupants along the Little Spokane River through August. The shuttle runs from the 9-mile takeout to the put-in at St. George's hourly from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. You'll need a Washington State Discover Pass to park your vehicle, and the shuttle cost is $8 per person, but I'll tell you what, this beats a long, long walk. That's all for this week. Our thanks go out to Tia Troy with Visit Montana's Glacier Country and to Townhouse Inns in Hamilton, which hosted us during our stay in the Bitterroot Valley. The beds were comfy and the hot breakfast was great, just what I needed to get going as I prepared for a day of fun and adventure outside. I'd also like to give a shout out to M&M Auto Repair, which made the time to figure out what was wrong with our Northwestern Outdoors radio truck and get us back on the road in a hurry. Good work, good people, and a fair price. I am impressed. I was also impressed as well by Knapp's Grill in downtown Hamilton. Great food, casual country atmosphere, and trust me on this, go there hungry because you will be getting a big, tasty meal. You can find out more about Hamilton, Montana, and that part of Montana called Glacier Country by going to visitmt.com. That's visitmt.com. While you're on the web, check out our website as well. That's northwesternoutdoors.com. You'll find links that'll go ahead and give you more information about our guests and destinations. And if you missed part of last week's broadcast, well, we've got it there for you too. Don't forget to like us and follow us on Facebook. We're always posting information that doesn't necessarily make it on our show. You'll find us on Facebook at Northwestern Outdoors Radio. And again, our website on the World Wide Web, northwesternoutdoors.com. The Bitterroot Valley is a beautiful place, and we'll be bringing you more audio from this part of Big Sky Country very soon. Until we do, though, take care, God bless, and make it a point to spend some time outdoors.